We are now live with
Gable Music Ventures.
All right, so we are now live with Gayle Dillman and Jeremy Hebbel from Gable Music Ventures in Wilmington, Delaware. And you probably recognize them or Gable Music Ventures most from the Ladybug Festival here in Wilmington, Delaware. And we're going to talk to them today about kind of their startup story. And so welcome, guys. Thank you for talking with me today about your company and sharing kind of some details for those who are interested in becoming, either business owners or are entrepreneurs and are just always kind of looking for those great tidbits of advice to kind of get them to the next level. So with that, for those on the call, I'm kind of hoping you can just give me a little elevator piece about what is Gable Music Ventures.
Sure.
I'm going to let Jeremy, you can go.
I get the elevator.
Yeah, he gets the elevator.
We are a full service entertainment service provider. So we do a fair amount of consulting, a lot of music booking. We create our own festivals, concerts. So we're the kind of the go-to business for anybody just looking for live music for any occasion.
And is it just for my point, like when you say live music, a lot of your piece is about original music too. Yeah. You support original artists.
Yeah, that's really the passion that started the business. 10 years ago when this idea started kind of bouncing around, there was already a fair amount of opportunities locally if you were in a cover band, to play in various bars, whether it be at the beaches or in Trolley Square and different places. But there was a pretty stunning lack of opportunity if you wanted to perform your original music. And so when we started, we really, really focused in on creating those opportunities. And it's still a focus of ours, but naturally over time, so many people have come to us saying, we want a cover band. And so over time, we've of course, we will provide whatever our clients are looking for.
But when we started, it started because my own daughter, who was writing music and performing, didn't have a place to play. And she was 15, turning 16 at the time. And so I realized that there was this opportunity in Wilmington that as things were starting to come into the city again, and remember, this is in 2011, so it was a while ago. And only since the last 5 years have we really seen this incredible resurgence of businesses in Wilmington. But she needed a place to play, and there wasn't anything. And I realized that therein was an opportunity to create this platform for emerging artists to perform their original music. So, as a business person, as an entrepreneur, one of the first lessons I learned is there's a reason why everybody does the same thing, because it's easier to do. So when you're starting your own business and you have a unique idea, it's going to take a lot of passion, a lot of perseverance and patience to make that idea come to fruition. Being an entrepreneur is not for the faint of heart.
I completely understand. And I know that we've kind of talked about your business a little bit, but I know I'm kind of fascinated to figure out who you guys are. So what's your background? Where did you guys grow up?
Well, the real growing up for me probably happened in Wilmington, Delaware as an adult, but I'm actually from Connecticut.
Okay.
Originally. And I've lived in California, I've lived in New York, but I've spent most of my adult life in Wilmington, Delaware. I have 2 kids, they're grown, they're sort of out of the area right now, but we're still really connected. I went through, my background was college recruiting when I was in the business world. I worked for Citibank and I traveled the country and I had this great job, really great job. And then I raised children. I stayed at home and I raised children. And then I got to this point in my life where I was going to say, okay, and what do I do next? What's next for me? And it took a lot of soul searching, and there's a whole story behind my story, but I really went back to what drove me passion, what gave me passion, what gave me happiness, what made me feel like I was in the present moment, and that was music. Mm-hmm. And then I had this journey with my daughter, and I was like, how can I combine the two of these things together and create a new career for myself? Because you're never done until you're done. And we can have a variety of careers in our lifetime. And so this was my way of doing that. And that's where when Erica, my daughter's guitar fell apart, so there's a whole story behind that. That's how I met Jeremy. So I'll let him take that piece from here.
So I am born and raised in Wilmington. So I am from here. I'm not going to say that I have not attempted to escape a couple of times. I have attempted to escape a couple of times, or at least that's how I used to think of it. I lived in Baltimore for a year. And then right before starting Gable, coming back to start Gable, I had actually sold everything I owned and moved out to San Diego. And so that was, I came back because Gayle was giving me the opportunity to try and turn Wilmington into the kind of music scene that I never would have wanted to leave in the first place.
But you left out the piece about the guitar.
We're gonna get to all.
Okay.
We're gonna get to all.
Okay, so wait, what's the piece about the guitar?
Okay, so when my daughter was in high school, one of the things she really wanted was to cope with some of it. High school kids have a lot of anxiety, just as usual, and she had her fair share. So one of the things that she wanted was an acoustic guitar. So one Christmas, that's what got her, was an acoustic guitar, and it's a Martin guitar, very lower end of a guitar. I bought it at Accent Music. Well, 3 months into having that guitar, the back split off from it. And she told me this one day, and as I was picking her up from high school, we were going to Accent Music for her guitar lessons. She told me, "Oh, Mom, the back's coming off my guitar." I'm like, "What do you mean the back's coming off? This is a Martin guitar. It shouldn't be happening." So of course, I'm driving over to Accent, and I'm on the phone with Martin Guitar, and they're great. They're saying, "No problem. Just have them send us the guitar, and we'll fix it, and you'll get it back in about 3 months." Well, my head kind of exploded at that point, said 3 months. And at that point, I'm walking into Accent Music, starting to explain to the manager what's going on with the guitar. And I said, "I want to loan her guitar." And they said, "Well, we don't have any." And I said, "Well, that's not acceptable, because this is a big deal. This is an important part of her life. And this is like her therapy." So I'm getting a little hot under the collar. And all of a sudden, from behind the counter, a voice says, "I have a guitar you can borrow." And that was Jeremy. And I didn't know him. And I looked at him and said, "Really?" I said, "That's really nice." And so I said, yes. And they sent the guitar off. And Jeremy and I started, just learning about what he does at Accent, what he was doing. And he was in a band, writing music. And it started to all come together. And by that one act of saying, "I will loan you a guitar," being open to that changed the whole direction of where I was going, because then my daughter started writing music and Jeremy was helping her do that. And we started to get this whole business idea going together. And then he left for California. But I kept on it. I kept this idea going because I wanted to start a business that was specific to emerging artists and original music. And I gave Jeremy the first right of refusal with that. If he didn't want to be a part of it, that was fine. But I needed a face. I know, I left out a few steps. Go ahead. Go ahead.
So what Gayle's leaving out is that once I started working with her daughter and she started writing all of this original music, the next logical thing for Gayle was, well, now I want to find somewhere for my daughter to perform this great music.
Yeah.
And so she tasked me, because I was connected and a musician and all this stuff, to trying to find a place for her 15, 16, how old was Erica at this time?
I think she was 16.
16-year-old daughter, and her writing partner, her friend Christine, to find a place to play their original music. And I just was striking out. I mean, I used the limited connections that I had to see what place, the bars were doing music, but a lot of other places weren't doing music. And so I couldn't find anywhere. And I went back to Gayle and I said, there's nowhere. I mean, if you're going to want Erica to play, you're going to have to rent a room and put on a show.
And that's what we did.
And so Gayle, who is really a force of nature, because for me, it would have stopped at that point. I'd be like, oh, well, there's nothing to do. But she was like, well, that's what we're going to do. And so she then, went out, she found the Center for Creative Arts
in Yorkland,
negotiated a price for the room,
I got a sound person,
got insurance for the event, got press for the event. I mean, we printed out tickets. Really, my entire role in that entire first show was in bringing my younger brother's band to the table to be the headliner, because my little brother was at Berkeley School of Music at the time and was with a touring band. So that added something kind of cool to the bill. But Gayle did everything. I mean, it was incredible to watch. And I mean, over 100 tickets got sold to that first event. And when that event happened, I had already decided to move. I mean, it was all kind of in the works. I was leaving. But it was a special thing that happened. There was no doubt about it. And so, I left, and a lot of people in the community, if I remember correctly, Barry Schlecker and a lot of other people had kind of gone to Gayle and said, what you did was really amazing and we need more of it. Kids need a place to perform, and, it was a really positive thing. And I think that really is what started the wheels turning for you. And so I'm out there for, a month or so, and I get this phone call from Gayle saying, so I'm starting a business back here in Wilmington, and I'm going to be creating opportunities for, kids to perform their original music, and, trying to figure this out. And, do you want to do this with me? Do you want to be a partner? I basically said, of course, but I asked if I could have until, like mid-March. I left,
after the winter.
I was like, I'm not coming back to Wilmington from San Diego before mid-March. And so,
I feel like that's a smart person.
Maybe a little bit extra time, which was great. And, looking back, I don't really think I would have stayed in San Diego. I'm really a homebody. I want to be close to my parents. I want to be close to my family. But I certainly left a whole lot sooner than I thought I would. But it's been, it's just kind of incredible how as soon as you choose to leave somewhere, everything falls in place to give you a reason to stay.
Isn't that like life? And I feel like what you guys are both speaking to is kind of and it's something really important that business owners have, is a clear why. And I think you guys both had a why behind your business. And that kind of leads you, when you make decisions, knowing your why, what keeps you guys both active and engaged in the business is important. And I think one of the stories that you have on your website, I think is interesting, is how you came up with the name Gable. And it kind of talks to your partnership. So if it's a combination of Gayle and your last name, Hebbel.
Got it.
Yeah.
Which I think is a very, it shows your collaboration, in my opinion. If I were to look at from an outsider's perspective, you guys have a clear, balanced collaboration. And is there anything you guys do, because something, it's getting into business together comes with innate challenges. You have different visions, you might have different personalities, you might have a lot of different things that you have to kind of constantly be balancing. Do you guys do anything to kind of complement each other, make sure that this partnership stays really positive?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say we're diametrically opposed. We're not, but we're pretty close. and so I think what we've learned a lot of lessons over time, that we each bring a certain set of skills to the picture. And what we've learned over time is to be able to stop, take a breath, and look at whatever we're creating or whatever the issue is, and from the other person's perspective. And that has been a journey. That did not just happen. It did not happen in the first year, second year, third year. We often had some epic battles over strategies and doing things. And I think I've probably said I told you so maybe about 20 times or so. 20 at least.
I was going to say 200.
No one's counting though.
Yeah, no one's counting. So but what I've learned also is that you can have a vision, you can have an idea, you can have that, but you can't have everything. Like no one is the one-stop shopping. So I learned something a while ago, which is, buy your talent and understand what you can do well, and what other people can bring to you to run your business. So when I gave up needing to feel like I needed to control all aspects of it, that's when we started to, I think, really be more cohesive as a team and be able to create things like the Ladybug Festival and work on some other larger events, because all of a sudden it's like, okay, I don't need to be the booking agent. I don't need to do that. You go do that. And I'm going to focus on the bigger picture, connecting the dots between events, people, places, and things. And once we kind of had a more clearly defined role for what we each do, it became, I'm never going to say it's easy, because it is not easy to run your own business and have a partnership. It's not easy, but we put a lot more of our energy into creating and finding solutions than we did earlier on. I mean, right now, since COVID and in March, we've had to really work together to find solutions to how do we exist in this. And that is the joy of having your own business, and that is the hardship of having your own business, is that you wake up every morning and you go, okay, how am I going to do this today? Yeah. And that never changes. And if you like that, great. And you're certainly challenged in these times to do that. But it hasn't always been a pretty picture, to say the least. Well,
COVID, interestingly enough, really, especially in the immediate aftermath of us, we lost, I have no idea. I mean, just literally hundreds of shows got canceled in the blink of an eye, and stuff that we'd been working on for 6 months, 8 months. Yeah. And that was obviously really hard to swallow. And but it really, really showed, getting back to your point, early on in this, I mean, really the very first days of this business, it was my instinct that there was not a space for original music of all ages, so we have to have a venue. That was my, you want to talk about an epic blow up, a battle that we had in the early days, was my instinct that we had to have a venue to present things. Whereas Gayle, who I will say spot on, thank God she won this battle. No, we're just going to rent and utilize other people's venues to keep our overhead low. And had we, I mean, right now it's the people that own venues that are struggling the most. Absolutely. And I don't know if we would be in business had we had that kind of overhead. Yeah. The fact that we are lean is the reason we're here right now.
Yeah.
At the same time, it was my instinct in those first shows when we were losing money, when we'd have 3 people that would show up. And it would be, Gayle and myself had spent 7 hours setting up a room and doing everything. And we'd spent 2 weeks promoting and all this stuff, and 3 people would come out. But at the end of the night, it was my instinct saying, it doesn't matter that we lost money, we're paying these artists. And having that mentality from the beginning, in the immediate aftermath of when COVID was happening, we had musicians that were stepping up and doing live stream fundraisers for us. Without us asking it, it just was happening because we've always treated musicians really, really well from the start. And that was my instinct as a musician. Right. So we would have these battles early on, and we would each kind of go, okay, all right. And we would back off. And I think that because we're such opposites, and Gayle comes to everything from here and I come everything from here, and then we wind up here, and here is what would work. Here wouldn't work, and here wouldn't work. Here is what works. So that's our strength, is that we see everything so different, and we're able to have these fierce and heated arguments, and afterwards go, okay, cool, let's get it done. And that's why I think it works so well.
Which I think you kind of answered a few of the questions I was going to ask you. It's kind of about, one was the idea that you kind of, some of your success was not having that venue. 2, how you treat your artists is really important, because they are kind of a big portion of your business. And I was thinking during this, when you guys were when you were chatting, is and how you've pivoted. For the people who are not familiar, who are watching, about Ladybug Festival, so you guys have a bunch of kind of different ventures, as your name says, and Ladybug keeps coming up. You want to share with everyone what exactly Ladybug is, why it's a big piece of your business, and then other kind of ways that you have decided where you put your energies when you kind of come to figuring out what you create throughout the year for programming.
So, the big takeaway lesson for Ladybug, for being a business owner, is that sometimes you get presented with opportunities. And if your mind is not open to seeing things or doing things a different way, you can miss those opportunities along the way. And that, seizing the moment and letting go of the, I'm a big one for analogies, but letting go of the sides of a river, like letting yourself float down and see where you next stop is a lot of how Ladybug came to be. And we had been doing music down on Market Street, Lower Market Street in the Loma block. We were renting out what was then the Film Brothers location, and we were doing these pop-up shows. And yes, sometimes there would be 3 people, and there were sometimes 10 people. And oftentimes I was in the bathroom crying, going, "What am I doing?" But we stuck it through. That's where the perseverance part comes in. So eventually we started to get traction, and it was right at the time in 2012 when Firefly was announced in the state of coming to the state of Delaware. And a lot of musicians were really upset because there was no one on the local lineup, and
everybody was excited.
We're excited. Everybody was excited.
Everybody was talking.
But there was this buzz about, okay, there's nothing local happening. Yeah. Simultaneously, Mike Schwartz, who's one of the owners of the property, Mike and Debbie Schwartz of the property on Loma, had said, okay, we want to give you a little bit of money. We want to say thank you to people who have come down here to look at go to our, it was then Extreme Pizza, come to see music. And we want to say thank you.
It was one of the first times anybody gave us money.
And yeah, it was, and so they said, what can you do with this? So this is where, 2 brains can be better than one. So we thought about it, and with same time as Firefly, I said, okay, let's do it the Thursday before Firefly, because we'll get all those people who are traveling into Dover to stop in Wilmington. Of course, I had it in my head that, failure was not an option. And we thought about, it should be a bug name. So we went back and forth on different kinds of bugs and things like that. And we came up with Ladybug. And at the time, we had no idea that Ladybug was the state bug of Delaware.
Yeah, that's one of those moments where you get like chills. Where, we announced this whole thing, and then Lori Citro, who was one of the performers that first year, was like, "I love that it's the state bug of Delaware." We were like,
"What?"
Huh? That's a very happy accident.
And then cool. My idea was, let's make it kitschy in some way. Let's make it all about women. Let's play off of that. Let's build something unique. We had no idea that Ladybug would develop and take off to the level it does.
It was the first thing in our business that had real momentum. Everything else felt like we were pushing a boulder uphill.
Yeah.
Ladybug, it was like, okay, we have to contain this and make sure it's growing at the right speed, or else it's just, we're going to try and do too much.
Was there anything that you did to help the traction or help the legs of the Ladybug? Did you notice your efforts?
I think it was just the right fit, the right kind of event. I mean, because Mike Schwartz and Debbie had said we want to do a block party, that we wouldn't have necessarily done it that way had we not had that request. Right. And I think that was what was so effective, is we worked with what we had on the block, and there was 5 businesses that were viable to have some music inside, and we figured we'd have some vendors on the street, and we closed down the block, and it was just, that was the kind of thing. I mean, Wilmington just really responded. I mean, I think the first year we had like 300 people. It was not.
And what block of Wilmington is it at?
It's the Loma, 2nd and Loma. So it's the
second
market between 2nd and 3rd Street is where the event was. And what was cool is, with this being the 3rd Thursday in July, I mean, that was typically a day, if you had talked to any of those business owners, they may not have seen anybody that day. Literally, not a single customer. Yeah. And when there's 300 people on a block and they're all inside these businesses, they're shopping and they're buying things and they're eating. And so we had businesses that were saying it ended up being one of the best days of the year for them. And I remember the owners of Zyka Indian Grill asking us if we could do it every month. And that was so funny to us. And it was just like, well, obviously we're going to do it again. Maybe we'll start annually. We'll start there. But it was just really cool. All the musicians as well. I mean, we had, I think,
20.
One of the coolest things about being a female-owned business, you know, had I done this on my own, had I started Gable on my own, I would imagine that it would have been a little bit more challenging for me to make the kind of relationships with the female artists that were in Wilmington than it was Gayle. Whereas with Gayle doing this business, I think a lot of female talent gravitated towards us. So when we had this idea to do Ladybug and make it all about women, it wasn't like it was a stretch. It wasn't like we were Googling and trying to figure out, oh my God, we have to find women. It was, no, it made so much sense for us because the majority of the artists that we were already forming relationships with were women. And so it was easy for us to find 20 artists that wanted to perform in something like this and do this. And one of my favorite things about Ladybug is it was 6 weeks from the moment that we got asked by Mike to do this event and for us to plan and everything. We had 6 weeks before the event. And we did it, and it was awesome, and we promoted it, and it was a blast, and it went really, really well. And, you know, Mike and Debbie, you know, they said, let's do it again next year, and we'll double the investment. And you know, ShopRite came on as a sponsor, and I think that was the year that I believe we had an outdoor stage. And, you know, it just had grown and grown and grown until, you know, last year it was 2 days long. Actually, I'm sorry, last year it was in 2 cities. It was in Wilmington and Milford. The Wilmington event was 2 days long. We had 100 artists that performed over those 2 days. It was crazy. It was amazing.
It was crazy.
You guys are kind of talking about funding a little bit. So you had a little support at first to kind of get you initially kind of up and going for that first year. And it seems like from your business, you're using sponsorships and ticket sales. Any other funding you have done to kind of ensure that these events are successful and you guys have enough for the next year? Is there any other pieces you've added to that?
Yeah, so when you're an LLC, like we are, a partnership LLC, you're not really eligible to get grant money and things like that. So you have to understand from the get-go, when you're setting up your business, you need to make a very conscious decision about how you want your business to run. Are you going to be a not-for-profit? Are you going to be an LLC? We chose LLC, and we've kept it that way for a lot of reasons. We think long-term, that's the better way to go with this. But we had to find ways to monetize this. So one of the ways we monetize it is through artist submissions. So when we realized a few years back that we were spending hours and hours of time listening to every single submission that an artist would send. And it just like, it was mind-blowing how much time we had to spend. So we decided that a way to kind of weed that down and really get quality was to put a price tag on it. And it's not that much. I think it's $15. It's not like it's
10.
10.
It was 10 when we first started.
10 when we started. I think it's 15 now. But we had to use that to get quality submissions, and also it's a revenue stream. So in addition, merchandise is a revenue stream. Vendors on the street. We charge for, you know, vendors to be on the street, depending on how much space, and it's still a great deal for all the vendors, but that is a revenue stream for us as well. We go back and forth on whether or not we should charge admission for this event. We consider it a community event, and that we want everyone to come in and be able to experience music. And we have all genres of music, all age groups, all ethnic backgrounds. Everybody comes to Ladybug. It's not specific to any one group. And we feel like, you know, we really wrestled with this. Do we charge admission? Do we not do? We're leaving so much money on the table. But, you know, with having sponsors like Chase behind it, we can keep the doors free for right now.
Yeah, you know, we, in addition to, you know, those few revenue streams, we also do a fair amount of bartering, just to keep the expenses that are going out the door as low as possible. That's basically the money that's made off of Ladybug is whatever we don't have to spend.
Right.
And we are told by a lot of people in the industry that for an event like Ladybug that is free and has a massive audience, we don't need to pay our artists. Why are you paying our artists?
Yeah.
They'll come and they'll play for free because it's a great opportunity, and
we're told we're crazy. We're crazy.
And so, you know, I think a lot of, again, one of the reasons that we've stayed in business is that we don't operate that way.
Yeah.
We don't do that. We look at Ladybug as a community building event and an opportunity to employ artists. That is what it is for us.
Yeah.
That is, when you break it all down, that's what that event means to us.
So that kind of goes back to one of the biggest points of this kind of chat we've had is, before we get to the final question that I had for you guys, is you want to talk a little bit about your pivoting, because I think a lot of people can learn from specifically, what have you guys done to pivot? You said you canceled a lot of events that you guys had, which was hard. You've done a fundraising concert, but is there any other piece that you've done to pivot and what people can learn from that?
Well,
absolutely.
Yeah,
we could talk for a whole nother hour.
We could, but you know, the thing about that word pivot is that it's continuous. It's in the present tense, because we are pivoting still. We started in March, and we had this meeting today, and we're having a big shift again of pivoting our business. So it's an act, it's a verb. It's you know, it's active. And I think when you realize that as a business owner, that you have to continuously look at the marketplace and go in the direction that the market is going. It's a challenge. So, you know, what did we do? We did what most other music promoters or music companies are doing, which is going digital, doing these streams. And we did a 2-day production for Ladybug. And it was crazy. How many hours do we have that we?
It was about 8.5 hours.
Over 2 days.
And what we ended up doing, sorry, yeah.
Go ahead. Well, you learn quickly how to resource different people to help you build this event. Yeah. You learn really quickly to rely on, you know, your gut as to, does this make sense? Does this not make sense? Is this good? Is this bad? You know, you have to learn on the spot, and what you don't have in this time right now is you don't have the luxury of making too many mistakes.
Yeah, for us, we immediately identified that if the revenue that we make from Ladybug Festival disappeared this year, that it would probably be a death blow.
Right.
And so we focused in on that, and realizing that we need to do everything we could to retain our sponsors, to still do some sort of event. So we were immediately having conversations with ShopRite, with Chase, saying, if we do this digitally, if we do this virtually, you know, will you still consider sponsoring? Would you still support the event? And both of them said, we need to see, you know, it's a different event. We need a new proposal. And so we immediately went out for a PPP, for a payroll protection loan. And that allowed us to keep our unbelievably dedicated and incredible staff, incredible. I want to say that 100 times, incredible staff on to help us, you know, just figure this all out. And we put together these awesome, you know, proposals, sponsorship proposals for ShopRite and Chase. Both of them got back and committed the same level of support that they would have given to a physical event, which was just such a lifeline. I mean, such a lifeline.
Did you learn something from the virtual events this year about your business?
Oh my, so much. I mean,
that list is long, but what I learned is that when you don't have a playbook in front of you, it actually can be very freeing. Sometimes it's good to have rules. Sometimes it's good to have, this is our best practices and this is how we do this. But then sometimes it's really good to not have that book, to be able to write your own. Because when you can write your own book, you can adapt yourself to the opportunity, to the business environment of whatever's going on. Did we learn? Yeah, we learned a lot about production, which I never learned.
Yeah, I mean, we basically turned into a video production house. Event business. And we were fortunate enough to get linked up with Jet Phoenix Films for Ladybug. I mean, he took basically 8.5 hours of previously recorded live performances and a whole slew of other footage that we kind of put and organized into a Google Drive folder with a lot of instruction of this is what we want, how we want it. And turned it into this really incredible. I mean, it looked
It was
like
great.
we
It
had
was
$1 million
awesome.
to put this thing together.
We didn't.
And it was, I mean, my hat's off to him and his team.
Yeah.
And I think what we accomplished was incredible.
But not without a lot of pain and suffering along the way. I mean,
oh my God,
this is a really challenging time to, it's sounding like it was all like, oh snap, it's done and it's great. It wasn't that way at all. There was a lot of stress and really, really stressful time. So again, I say, being an entrepreneur, being in your own business right now is not for the faint of heart. It's not always going to feel and look like this in the world. But for right now, it will be, and we have to, when we're projecting out of, how are we going to survive? We're looking at the next 9 months and what are we going to do and how are we going to do?
So a lot of the things I've heard from you, I'm seeing how you guys are learning to feed to each other's best qualities to kind of get the company moving forward. I hear that you're being perseverance. Is there any other advice you give to a current or a wannabe entrepreneur about starting your business, about finding the idea, about figuring out when is the time to not give up?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to give it the exact advice because our times are so unique to all of us right now. Having patience, persevering, rethinking. If it's not working one way, try modifying another way, and be open to asking other respected people in your lives, even if they're not doing what you're doing or they're not in that industry. Give you an idea of how's it working? What does it look like? Like, don't trap yourself into thinking it needs to be one way, because there's so many ways that everything can be done. And I would say, just from a personal standpoint, to me, one of the most important things is integrity. So when you run a business, and if you're not good, if you're not honest, if you're not trustworthy, if you don't stand behind your word, it doesn't matter. I mean, I guess, I'm being naive when I say that, you can still be successful and be slimy, but I think long-term, especially when you're working in a community like, smaller, like Wilmington and in Delaware, I think you are your word. You are your reputation precedes you. So making sure that what you say and what you do are consistent with your vision and consistent with, ethics. Being ethical is really important. And Jeremy, I don't know if you have anything ethically to add to that.
Yeah, I know that, one of the big things that I know that has been a challenge for both of us, but I think has been incredibly important, is that even with setbacks, even when something, especially now, especially when things are so precarious for our business, keeping that leadership mentality of focusing in on the positive things, what we accomplished, why we accomplished them, and how we all did so well together is, I think, the best thing that we've possibly done, especially for our staff and for the people that we worked with. Even if, something fell short of expectations, we didn't earn what we had hoped to earn with something, it's not as important as look at what we're all doing in the face of such adversity right now. Every day I'm in awe that we're still in business. Gable Music Ventures, an entertainment business of 5-6 people, are still here when our industry is essentially shut down for 6 months.
Yeah.
And that's incredible to me. And I'm super proud of that. And I am constantly relaying that to our staff and relaying that to our supporters of how proud I am and how grateful I am for that support. So keeping your head up, staying positive, and being, for me, incredibly stubborn and absolutely loving what
Both
you do.
of us, actually.
If we didn't love this, this would have been one, this would have been impossible.
It would, yeah. Gotta love what you do. Life is short, love what you do. You're going to fail. Just, okay, you failed, get up, shake it off, move forward, do it again, do it again, do it again, do it again. And one of those times, We had countless shows before we even made $5. Just do it again, do it again, do it again. And if you can't do that, you're not doing the right thing. So
and, I think that is one of the challenging parts too for a lot of beginning entrepreneurs, when they're not seeing that immediate, you know, when their work isn't getting that immediate love and attention. So I want to know, what is it that the Delaware community can expect from Gable Music Ventures this fall, the upcoming year? What's on your radar? What do people need to put on their calendars now?
thank you. Well, of course, next year we're not sure what we're actually going to be able to plan for. But what we would say is to follow Gable Music Ventures and the Ladybug Festival. We are working on a new initiative that we're hoping to launch in October. I don't think we're quite ready to release all the information yet.
We can describe it.
Want to tease it? Just get a little tease out there.
Yeah, we're going to tease it.
So we're going to be doing what we're doing now. We're going to be utilizing Zoom to do a series of kind of sessions to bring together musicians and industry experts to have a discussion about different ways to monetize their careers now that gigging and live performing is kind of out of the equation. That's one thing. Keep an eye on our YouTube channel.
Yes.
Our incredible staff they've picked up the ball and they are running towards the end zone so fast, and I'm so proud of them.
Yeah.
But we are turning our YouTube into a space for local musicians and musicians anywhere to turn to for advice on, what are things you should not do at gigs, or what are things you should do to get gigs? What are the best things you can do for your social media?
Practical advice.
So keep an eye on our YouTube, subscribe to our YouTube, because that is something that we have identified, obviously, for us as potentially a passive income source for us down the road. And so we want to kind of go back to our roots of wanting to help musicians and utilize that channel for that. So we're going to be utilizing Facebook Live to do more live performances, and just a lot of exciting things coming digitally kind of throughout the fall and the winter.
So follow you on Facebook, subscribe to YouTube, go to gablemusicventures.com.
Yep. And stay tuned. We'll be announcing, if we can do live events next year. My dream is, to have, for lack of a better word, a conference or summit that wraps around the Ladybug Festival in Wilmington, Delaware, and to bring in industry professionals to really make Wilmington a destination for original music. That's my dream. That's our dream. And that's what we're working toward, and we're going to get there. So, advice again is, in our vocabulary, there's not really a no, you can't. It's just, when can you do it? Is it right now, or is it going to be a year from now or 2 years from now? But it's not a question of if, it's just a question of when for us or for me. I don't take no until I absolutely get shut down. And here's the other bit of advice. Always ask for anything you want, because you know what? You never know. People will do the darndest things sometimes. You ask for things and you get it or you don't, and then you ask again and keep asking again until you get what you want.
Well, I'm really excited to hear about what you announced. Feel free to share it with me. I can share it with our community too on our social networks. Thank you for sitting down with me today. I know you guys are really busy. You took the time. I know you have a lot going on in your personal lives as well. So thank you for sitting down and chatting with me. Gayle, for those who are watching, I've taken so much of your time this fall, and you're going to be part of so many fun things. Gayle is going to be a final judge for our Swim with the Sharks pitch competition, which will be airing on October 20th on DETV statewide, as well as a broadcast on all of our social media channels. So make sure to stay tuned. October 20th, Swim with the Sharks. One lucky entrepreneur is going to win $10,000, which was gifted by the Newcastle County and NCC Innovates program. So we're excited about that, as well as a lot of prizes that is donated by the community. And then she's going to be a panelist at our annual Delaware Entrepreneurial Summit on October 20th. And she's going to be speaking about strategies for, getting that publicity to get your startup really out there in the community, both locally and nationwide. And you are sitting on a panel of just huge mega successes. You guys are going to be talking about practical strategies. So we're really excited to have you at the Delaware Entrepreneurial Summit on October 20th. And thank you so much for your time today, chatting with us. Thank you for all of the practical advice that you give to the Delaware community. And we're looking forward to working with you this fall. We're looking forward to hearing what's announced. And have a wonderful day. That's a
Thank you.
Thank you for it. Thank you.
Really appreciate this opportunity.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing what Ladybug Festival turns out to this year. So.
Oh, yeah. It's going to be good.
Thank you.
All right.
All
Thank you,
right.
guys.
Thank you, guys.
Bye now.
Bye.